I'm going to be in Hebrews today, Hebrews 6, and kind of thinking on Father's Day. I think I've said this before on Father's Day. I have always kind of gotten frustrated at, messages on Father's Day, seemingly that, on Mother's Day, it's like, oh, moms are so beautiful. We're going to share this cute, beautiful word to mothers, and on Father's Day, it's like, you better do better. It's kind of what I feel like it always has been. And I'm not going to do that to you. But what I'm going to do is just talk about God and who He is to us and how it can relate to us as fathers, but then all of us, and how we have an anchor, which is our hope, which is our assurance of eternity because of Christ and what He's done for us. And I hope in this, and that us as fathers, that we can take this and see, how we can be even better as dads, as leaders, those that, can be that anchor of our family that helps to pull. One of the things as I was studying and researching and in this and thinking about anchors, anchors hold a boat, a ship in place. And in this scripture, it gives us that picture of an anchor, but really what this is this is not to be for us to be held in place, but for us to be held to heaven, to Him, to Christ. And so it's not for us to be held in place, but to be held to Him and moving with Him and where He is. And I just wanted to give that just a little encouragement that this should help us to grow, help us to move, and help us to be where we should be, right? Because our anchor is in Him. So we're being pulled along by Him. All right, let me just read this first. I just want to read through the whole thing. In chapter 6 and verse 13, it starts, "For when God made a promise to Abraham, because He could swear by no one greater, He swore by Himself, saying, 'Surely blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply you.' And so after He patiently endured, He obtained the promise. For men indeed swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation for them is for them an end to all dispute. Thus God, determining to show more abundantly to the heirs of promise the immutability of His counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation who have fled for refuge, to lay hold of the hope set before us. This hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, and which enters the presence behind the veil, where the forerunner has entered for us, even Jesus, having become high priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek." So in this, there's a couple of things, and we're going to dive into it, but that I see and that I was thinking about in this. It says that He was determined to show us that He is faithful. I can take that as a dad, or really as just a person, a Christian. But being faithful, I want to talk about how He is faithful. It says He doesn't lie. He does what He says He will do. He won't lie about it. If He said He's going to do it, He's going to do it. Right? It's like Pastor Lydia just shared. It's like, hey, God said, we're going to do this car wash. And He did it. It wasn't us, it was Him. But He said He was going to do it, so He did it. He won't lie. It says He's our anchor. They use anchors, right? Today, back here, and when they used this in the writer used this in this scripture is the same thing, is they used an anchor not for calm seas. They didn't use it whenever it was just nice and sunny outside and the sea was calm. They used it when it was stormy. They used it when it was, the waves crashing up against the boat. They didn't want to go, drift into a place that they weren't supposed to be. They needed to be held fast in the place where they were. And so they used the anchor. And he is that anchor for us. No matter what is happening or what we're going through. In verse 13, it says that, really in verse 13 through 18, it says that God went above and beyond to show us who he is. He went the extra mile to say, listen, I've done all this. Like, he didn't have to say this, right? He promised, he confirmed it he swore on his own name because there was no one greater, right? And as I'm reading that, it's like, people can swear, and it's like, because you know who I am, you know my family, like we're good for our word, But God, he's like, listen, you can say, look at who I am and look at, how much I've done or that that I come through. But him, he's God. And he, of course, would say, he's like, there's nobody else that I can swear by or give you. And in this, as I looked up this word swear is used 2 times in this verse, and it says just that he swore. And it means to affirm, promise, threaten, or to do something with an oath. Also, in swearing, to call a person or a thing as witness. You say, as God is my witness. Anybody ever said that? God was like, with me as my witness. But it's like, if you're calling somebody as a witness to say, like, listen, I can vouch for this person. They were, they were where they said they were. They didn't do that thing that, they're being accused of. But God, he's like, listen, because there's nobody else that can vouch for me. I have to vouch for myself, and I am telling you that by my name, by who I am, this is what I'm saying, and I'm promising to you. It says, verse 13, for when God made a promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself, saying, surely blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply you. Right? He says, I swear by my name. There's no one greater. And he's giving this promise. He's saying, surely I will bless you. Surely I will be faithful. I will be here with you. I will help you. I will give you the things that you need to be who you are. I will be here to teach you and to sustain you. I will surely, blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply. You will grow and increase. And this is what he swore. In verse 18 it says that by 2 immutable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation or encouragement. We have fled for refuge to lay hold of the hope set before us. In other words, he wants us to have strong encouragement or consolation to lay hold of this hope, to grab hold of it, to hold fast to this hope that's set before us. What's this hope set before us? This hope set before us is salvation and is the eternity with him, right? That's what I've said this before, but that word hope means an assurance, a confidence of our eternal salvation. That's what this word hope in the Bible means whenever you see this. It's not, I hope this happens. It's, I hope, I am sure, I am steadfast. I know because God has promised and He's sworn on Himself, because there's no one greater that He has given me, that He will bless me how He deems that I need to be blessed, that He will keep me, that He will hold me, that He will be everything that I need, that I will be able to be with Him in eternity. He says, lay hold, hold fast. And that word, lay hold, actually, the small phrase, in the Bible, these words, or a couple of words, can come down to one Greek or Hebrew word. And this word is krateo, and it means, of course, to hold in the hand, or to hold fast, to not discard or let go, or to keep carefully and faithfully. So it says to lay hold of. That we've fled this serving ourselves and this sin and all this stuff, but we fled this because of what Christ has done, that we can flee those things so that we can lay hold of, so that we can hold fast to, that we can discard, right? Because of what He's done, we can throw off those things that we once held on to that weren't good for us, that were sinful, that were a mess, that created just nasty stuff in us, that we can throw those things off and be able to hold fast to who He is. And all of it says to keep carefully and faithfully. It gives me this other little picture of it. It's like, yes, I want to lay hold of. I want to hold fast to that anchor. I want to hold on to who He is. But it gives this like descriptive to keep carefully and faithfully. Am I being careful to hold on to, are we being careful to hold on to who He is and what He's done for us and the hope that we have in Him? So how do we do this? We trust Him. We spend time with Him. Now, how do you lay hold of Him? I carefully think through what I'm doing, right? I faithfully come before Him to talk with Him and to be with Him. I come to this place with Him that I'm supposed to be. How do you lay hold of anything? I have to go toward it, first of all. I have to be moving toward it. I have to be pointed in that direction. If I want to grab hold of that Kleenex box, this is the first thing I saw, that Kleenex box that's over there on the chair, I have to go over to it. I have to grab it and pick it up. What direction are we heading? Are we heading in His direction? Are we heading in that place with Him? And of course, once we're there, are we holding fast? Are we laying hold of who He is, that hope that He set before us? So then the writer keeps on speaking of and fighting for our encouragement in this hope that we have with Christ, right? He's giving us this descriptive of, like, listen, I'm telling you this story about that God promised, and He's faithful, and he swore on His own name that He would bless and multiply That he would be everything that you needed, no matter what it looked like in the time that you're in, no matter what it looks like in the future, no matter what it looked like in the past, and what you may say, like, you just don't know, like all the stuff that I've been through, I don't know if I can do this or I can stay. I don't know if I'm good enough or whatever. No matter any of those things, he says that it's not about you. It's not about what you can do or how you can do it. It's not that you're strong enough. It's not that you can figure it out, that you can be everything that you need to be so that you can receive this hope or so that you can hold on to this hope. Because it really has nothing to do with you anyways. Because we were just all a mess, all just kind of fumbling around with how we can do things. And he says, no, it's not you. It's what I've done. It's who I am and what I can do and what I have done that allows you to have this hope. And what he did is he sent Christ. He sent Christ to be here on this earth, and somehow, in the way that only God can do, that he could be God and man fully, that he could come, live here, grow up. Then to somehow take everything that we should be held accountable for with him to the cross. And when he took that to the cross, it broke this barrier between us and God that kept us far away from him. It broke that barrier and brought us in close. How can we hold on hope? Because he's allowed us to come into that place by what he's done through Christ. In verse 19, Hebrews 6:19, it says, this hope. So, right, he's talked about that hope, that confident expectation of eternal salvation that he has promised us, that he has swore and given an oath. Those two things that he has done, that he cannot lie in those things, right? What can he not lie in? That he is faithful, that he's good, and that he's done the work to get us to the place that we can be with him. It says, this hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, in which enters the presence behind the veil. This hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, in which enters the presence behind the veil. See, when it says this hope we have as an anchor, what does this mean? Is it this hope is something that I'm just hoping in? Like I've said before, it's not just something that I'm hoping in. It's an assurance. It's a confidence. It's something that is true, that I know, because God can't lie, because he has sworn that what he said he will do, he will do. It's a sure thing. How can we have this confidence, this hope? It's because he says, I can have strong consolation in who he is, in what he can do, not what we can do. It says, hold fast, lay hold of this hope that's set before us, right? No matter what happens, and I think about this when I'm studying, reading scripture and like reading these things, and I try to dive in and just kind of like pull apart all the words and what it's saying. And it says, hold fast or lay hold of this hope that is set before us. This hope, no matter what's happening in this day right now, it doesn't matter. No matter what happens to me or you, that really doesn't matter. Because this hope is set before us, right? That's what it says. See, it says this hope that's set before us. What's the hope that's set before us? It's the hope of eternity, not the hope of today. Now, this hope we have today, and we can have the assurance and the confidence that today God is going to be with us, and we do have that. But no matter what, how can I have that today? Because I have that for the hope that is set before me. You know, I think about my grandma. You know, I think maybe I've said this before, but I just, when we've been going through things, you know, the past number of years, and I was just shocked and in awe that, you know, there's so much of this fear and people being scared and, you know, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to do this, I'm going to whatever, you know. And, you know, I talked to my grandma, and she's like, yeah, I'm good. You know, like, hey, you know, are you going to be here? Yeah, I'm good. Are you worried, you know, about getting? No, I'm good. No, I'm good. And there was something about, you know, through all that time, whenever they were telling you to stay in your homes and you know, you better protect yourself and your family and, you know, wear a mask and all this stuff. And you can do that if you want. You know, I'm not going to judge you for doing that. But what I want to do is I want to have that faith and that hope and that assurance of who God is, that confidence in His Word and what He's promised, enough that I could be like my grandma. You didn't think I was going to say it. That, you know, it was like, I want to be like Grandma Esther. Because she's, you know what she said? She's like, I've lived a life. I've lived a good life. I don't care. I'm going to go see my people. I want to do what I want to do. I mean, she literally said it. She's like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm like, okay. It's like, I'm not going to stay home and be bored and just do nothing. I want to see people, and we need to see each other. We need to be around each other. We need to whatever. It's like, but, you know, and she's like, she had a hope. She had a confidence in God and in who He was. An assurance of, you know, no matter what, you know. It's like, it may come to get me, it may not. I don't really care. Right? Yeah. To live is Christ. That scripture is to live is Christ. Meaning I might suffer. I might go through things. But the other half of that scripture, it says to die is to gain. So to live isn't to gain. To die is to gain. Eternal salvation and what we have to look forward to, the hope that's set before us, is gain. He says this hope is an anchor. That's what it means. Because that anchor, that hope, that eternal salvation, the salvation we have because of Christ and because of what He's done, is an anchor. And what does it say? That He has gone in behind the veil. So that anchor, right? That anchor is in the Holy of Holies. right? It talks about him being high priest, right? According to the order of Melchizedek, not according to the order of Levi or these others that basically they had to keep switching. They died. They had to sacrifice a bull, get the blood, all this stuff, all these things. It wasn't them. They just had to kind of perform this act. They were a picture of what Christ was going to do for us. They said, not according to that, but he's high priest, the one that once and for all was sacrificed for us. Not that he sacrificed an animal, but that he sacrificed himself for us once and for all, laid himself on the altar for us. And then after that, after he saved us and broke that barrier that kept us away from God, brought us in close, that he took and that anchor of that salvation and took it behind the veil. And he's like, I'm taking this behind, and hold on to this, buddy. See, with anchors, how they work is they firmly dig into, grab hold of the ground, right? And so we have that picture of that anchor that he has taken behind the veil, and he's dug that into the Holy of Holies, right? This place. Back in the Old Testament, that priest would go into the place with that sacrifice, and it was scary. Because if you weren't right with God, it was over. You're done with. It wasn't something to be messed with or trifled with, and you couldn't just run in there and, I'm going to go in there where God is. When his presence comes, if you're not right with him, you die. You're done. That's it. Did it the wrong way. Sorry. I say that to give you this picture. Listen, that anchor that Christ took back into that place, the Holy of Holies, the presence of God, that he walked into that place after he did what he did for us. He died on the cross for us. Took that anchor in there and dug it down and said, this place right here, the presence of God, the place where God is, the place where it's not something to be trifled with, it's not something to mess with, the place where his presence dwells and everything that you need is there. All the power of who he is there. That's where I'm going to place this anchor. That is where your salvation, that hope that you have, is anchored down, not down, but up in those heavenly places, in the place of the Holy of Holies, where God's presence is. He says, that's why I want you to lay hold, hold fast, carefully, diligently, faithfully, to seek after me. But when that anchor is placed, right, in a boat, the anchor is thrown down, it goes to a place that's unseen. But that rope isn't just loose, because otherwise it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work unless it was firmly secured to the boat. So he says, lay hold of, hold fast. Is this firmly secured in us. Right? And it's not my strength that does it. Because what he's done is not just been given me the ability to hold on to him, but he's holding on to me. He's holding on to us. In Hebrews, where is that scripture? Okay, here it is. In Hebrews 10:23, it says, "Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful." See, this is a couple of chapters later, and he comes to this point again where he says, listen, I want to remind you again of what I talked about earlier. I've been saying a couple of other things, but let me remind you again to hold fast to that confession of hope and do it without wavering. Without moving from side to side or going this way. Don't be wishy-washy about it. Don't be wishy-washy about holding on to that confession of hope, that confession of who Christ is and what he's done for you, and that he is that anchor, that he is the one sustaining you and holding you, that he has taken you into that place of the Holy of Holies where God is there in all his power and all of his presence, that he can be everything that you need. Hold fast to that confession of hope. Will you stand with me?